Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. And if this is your first time here, my name is Ryan Hodges. I am a type 1 diabetic. I'm 37 years old and I've had diabetes now for going on 35 years. Um, my goal with this channel is to encourage people that it's never too late to change your life with diabetes. Uh, As you will hear in some of my stories today, and if you continue to watch this channel, you'll see that that is so true for me. And I'm willing to bet that there's a lot of people out there that share similar stories to me, similar ways of thinking that I have had, and that that I'm now currently learning was very wrong, and that you didn't think there's anything you could do. And that is what I want to do. I want to be here to encourage, to motivate, and to just be any kind of help that I can to those of you out there struggling with type 1 diabetes also. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this channel, share it, and let's spread the word to other diabetics out there or people who are affected with diabetes, whether it's a parent of a diabetic, a brother, a sister, a aunt, uncle, whoever it is. I'm sure that most of you know somebody with diabetes and that you or they could benefit from just hearing the story of somebody who's gone through it for as long as I have and what it is I'm doing to make the change. Today's video is going to be a rundown of my life before my very first pump. Now, the reason I want to do this is I want to give some backstory to my life with diabetes. Um, like I said, I've had it for 35 years. I was diagnosed when I was 1 year and 4 months old, and I don't remember anything about that time or about the training that my parents were given. I know only what I've learned from them up until the point I got the pump. The time when I got the pump is when I was directly involved in the training that I was given, because at the time I was in 8th grade, so I'll have to do the math another day to figure that out, but I was probably around 12-ish years old at the time, and so I was able to comprehend what the doctors were telling me, able to know what was going on, and at that point is when, my life I believe at the point that I got the pump is when my life kind of took a turn for the worst with my diabetes. Um, I say that because during the first part of my life with diabetes, up until I got the pump, I was on shots. And the shots that I was taking was I took 2 shots a day, one in the morning, one at night, of regular insulin, which was a more like a fast acting insulin, or it's the insulin that carries you for your breakfast, meal. And then NPH, which is your like basal insulin, if you would, that carries you throughout the rest of the day. Um, I remember having to take the NPH and you roll it in your hand to mix it up before you could, pull it into the syringe to give yourself a shot. And that's something that like a lot of people don't have to learn how to do now. And I think it's awesome where technology's at. So I think that's really cool that like most of you probably have never had to deal with that, unless you are or were diagnosed, around the time that I was. And in that case, you probably know what I'm talking about. And hopefully you're not on that anymore and you're on a pump or something like that, that we don't have to deal with that anymore. Right. Um, I don't have access to any of my medical records from when I was that young or when I was a kid, and I wouldn't even know how to get them. But I would be interested to know what my A1Cs were back in the day. I'd be willing to bet that they were better than some of the stuff that I talked about in my last video, because of how my diet was when I was younger and I was on shots. I would wake up in the morning at a certain time to do my insulin. I would have a certain amount of food for breakfast. Like I had to calculate like my food for breakfast. I then had to have a snack a couple hours later, which as a kid in school, having a snack during school hours it it's not always easy, because like you feel like, oh, I'm different than everybody else. Like not everybody else has to eat a snack, and so you kind of like either huddled in the corner of your classroom, depending on your teacher, or like step out of the classroom to eat your snack, or how, whatever you were. I know for me, I had a run of all of those different things. Like I had teachers that were just like, yeah, just stand in the back, and like kids will look, they want to see what's going on, right? So like I would have to kind of like turn around, and I didn't want people to like watch me eat the snack for some reason. I had an amazing third grade teacher who, when it was my snack time, every kid in the class got to have their snack time, right? Like she made everybody do it, like able to do it with me, which made just me feel like I was normal with everybody else, right? So like there were awesome people in my life that helped me through some of that stuff. Then I had lunch, and then I had to have an afternoon snack, and then came dinner, and then a snack before bed, right? So throughout the day, I was eating more regularly. I was eating very specific amounts of food, and I was limiting what I had, right? Now, the person I think that was probably also, or I know was affected also by my eating, was my little sister. So when I was 3, my sister was born. Um, she, I mean, from the minute she was born, she was my best friend, and to this day, she still is. My sister and I are incredibly close, and she is, she's one of the coolest people I know in the world. My kids and my wife, hold are right up there with her. My sister, and I didn't know this at the time, my sister always felt like she got the short end of the stick because my dad would go to the grocery store and buy the things that I was allowed to eat, and she had to stick with it also. She would ask for things that she wanted, and she was told no because Ryan can't have it. And it's like, how crappy is that for this kid that doesn't have diabetes to have to follow the same kind of diet that her older brother does because he does, right? So, Sarah, if you're watching this, I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. Um, just know, I know I've probably told you the story in the past, but I don't know if I did or not, or if you remember it or not. We would go to school in the morning and eat breakfast at school, and not all the time, but sometimes. But one of the days that we went to school to eat breakfast, I got whatever it was that I could eat at the breakfast line. And my sister gets a chocolate Long John donut. And she looks me dead in the face as she takes this bite of this donut that just makes it look like the most decadent thing she's ever eaten in her life. She looks at me and she's like, like, this is so good. And like, I know like that was her like getting back at me in a way, right? Like, she didn't know what she was doing. She was probably like 5 years old at the time, right? Like, I'm 8, she's 5. Like, she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know why this is going on, and all that stuff. So like, I look back at it now and I think it's hilarious. And I think like, man, that really sucked to be her. So like I said, I really think that like my blood sugars, I wish I could remember. I wish I had a memory of like how my blood sugars were when I was a kid. But I don't, right? So that's why like I want to quickly go through some of these things and not spend as much time on each one, because I don't have the memory of them enough to be able to like really share enough about that part of my life. And so once I get into the point where I had my pump is when I'm going to like spend more time on different things and talk about what it is that I think caused like the downfall that I needed so desperately to have somebody tell me something different than I was told. Uh, Now, also being on shots, and just doing a blood test with a glucose monitor. I had like, I think my first one was like, it was made by Accu-Check, and they were pretty big sized. They were a lot different than some of the ones that are out there today. I wasn't checking it all the time like most kids are now, and I would do it breakfast. I think I did it at snack time, lunch, dinner, like right before meals, right? So I was doing it like 5, maybe 6 times a day. Obviously doing it when my blood sugar felt low, um, to know what I needed to do for insulin. Um, so with the CGM now, like now I'm on the CGM and I can watch my blood sugar all the time, and I see like, oh, it's starting to fall. I can pay attention to it if it starts getting low. Well, when I was younger, I think I probably had 5 or 6. Like, we called them insulin reactions. I've heard them called seizures. I've heard them called all kinds of things. But I've had 5 of these episodes where my blood sugar dropped so low that I was, and this is only up to the point where I got the pump. After the pump, I've had a couple of them, but definitely not as many. But during those times, like and I was really young and I don't remember all of it, but I remember just the feeling of being so helpless that I didn't know who was what. Like I think that maybe like as like when my blood sugar started coming back up, I was able to recognize my mom or my dad or whoever happened to be there helping me throughout those situations. And in my memory, I only remember the times that it was like my mom and dad, except for one time. I was in sixth grade. I was going to school in Payson, Arizona. It's this little small town um, in Arizona, and I had an insulin reaction, a seizure at school. And I don't even remember how it happened, but I remember waking up in the hospital. Um, and they had got my blood sugar up. My mom came to pick me up and gets me home. And, so like now I'm the kid that had to go to the hospital because his blood sugar got so low that I don't even know, like, did I collapse somewhere? Like, I don't know what happened. I can't remember. I just remember waking up in the hospital. Um, so, like those are some of the things that like parents with diabetes, you can understand like that it sucks to see your kids like that. On my side of it, like I mean, like for me, like I feel lucky, like I don't remember it, right? Like for me, like it was just, I just kind of like went to bed or whatever and woke up and now like what's going on? And so I don't have to feel what my parents felt watching me go through those kind of things. So, um, then on the flip side of like the low blood sugars is high blood sugars, right? Like you're always feeling like you have to go to the bathroom a lot. You're really thirsty, all kinds of things. When I was in school, if I went to like go do my blood test, because like when I was younger and in school, like you had to go to the nurse, do your blood sugar. And if my blood sugar was high before lunch, the nurse would be like, okay, cool, go to the track and run laps around the track to bring your blood sugar down. Like there wasn't another way for me to do it at the time. And if I'm going to go eat, that's just going to make my blood sugar go up. Hopefully the insulin starts catching up and like does something, but I have to go do something else. So I would go run the track, and I hate running. And maybe that's why. Maybe I don't like running because of that, but I've never been fast. So like even though I like, all right, go and run, I'm not really running fast enough to probably do anything for my blood sugar. So it's just me like going out and doing something else, right? So um this is a story that I was told, and I like maybe a couple weeks ago, I'm talking to my mom about it. Her and my dad went out to they went for a weekend retreat, and I stayed with a good friend of ours. My mom had this friend who was she was like a nurse. And so my mom thought, cool, I can leave my diabetic son with this lady who will know how to take care of him. She had kids that were my age. So like we were best friends growing up. And so it should have been a safe situation. My mom left all like the food that I could eat and a list of the things, and thinking like this lady's going to take care of her son. Well, when my parents get back from their trip, the lady didn't want to feed me the snack that my mom gave, and so just gave me a bunch of strawberries for snack and a bunch of fruit and things like that affected my blood sugar way more than these other snacks that I'm used to having. And my mom does my blood sugar, I'm in the 900s. So like I've gone this up and down road with my blood sugar when I was younger, but I definitely don't feel like it was as much as I did later on in life with my pump, right? And most of those situations were because of like just variables that happened, and it definitely wasn't a consistent thing like it was for me later in my life. I remember a time that I went to a school field trip, and on this field trip, my blood sugar started feeling low. So I told the teacher I needed to sit down and check my blood sugar. And I always carried like juice boxes or glucose tablets or whatever with me. And somehow I did my blood sugar, and my blood sugar was 19. And I remember it. I remember my blood sugar being 19 and being able to take care of myself. Right. So like it was a very like slow decline in my blood sugar. So that it didn't like hit me and like make me go out. But that's crazy to think that I was 19 and I remember that, and that I was able to take care of myself essentially. And I can't remember how old I was. I can't remember like the teacher to even like let me think about how old I was, but I was young. I was young enough, below, less than 12. So like if I had to guess, I was probably in like fourth or fifth grade. I don't know. But regardless of that, like that's crazy, right? Um, when I was younger, I went to diabetes camp. I went like 3 times when I was younger, and those were some of the coolest like memories that I have with diabetes when I was younger. Just going to a place where everybody's like you, and um, and just doing things that normal kids do all the time, but you have these people who are trained to take care of you at this camp. I went wakeboarding at diabetes camp. I did all kinds of like zip lines and like climbing up a tree 50 feet high and jumping off of a platform and trying to ring a bell. Like all these things are like memories that I have of when I was younger, still dealing with diabetes, but just being able to like let it go. I blame diabetes camp on my love to put bacon on just about anything and put peanut butter with things that you wouldn't normally put. Or maybe not. Anyways, when they would come around to your blood test, if your blood sugar was low, they would give you like glucose tablets or something with like a larger amount of sugar and then protein to help carry you through the night until you could wake up. And one of the things that they gave us was a saltine cracker with peanut butter and bacon. And it was one of my favorite things as a kid. And I would still eat that today, but like peanut butter and bacon, like it tastes so good together. So if you haven't tried it, I suggest you make yourself a peanut butter and bacon sandwich, and I think that you'll love it. At least I do. Diabetics, obviously, like every 3 months, you need to go get your A1C checked. And as a kid, I did not like getting that done. So much so that during one of my trips to the doctor to get my blood drawn, my baby sister was like pretty relatively newborn. And we get there, we take an elevator up to like whatever floor it was on. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I bolted out of the room. I got in the elevator. I hit the down button, and my mom is trying to chase after me. And I guess like a security guard or somebody saw me and was able to help like stop me until my mom got there. And like I didn't want my blood drawn. And I also have memories of getting my blood drawn where like I never felt the needle. And now when I go get my blood drawn, I'm talking, I'm joking, I'm having fun with these people, and it doesn't hurt at all. I've gotten so used to it that it doesn't bother me. It's a part of life, right? But like that's another memory that I have, and that my mom likes to tell the story because like it was crazy for her to have to deal with that. But that's part of like life with a child with diabetes, is having to get your blood drawn. My mom told me stories about like being younger and like they couldn't do my blood test and like they felt terrible, but like the only way they could get me to do my blood test sometimes, and this is like when I was younger and like super squirmy, is like almost have to like wrap me in a towel to be able to do my blood sugar, give me a shot. Like they did what they had to do to make sure that they were taking care of me. And it's like I don't know like if today, if it was the same way, like would some parents feel like they could do that with their kids, right? I'm glad they did. I would never look back and be like, I can't believe you wrapped me in a towel to give me my insulin or to do my blood sugar. Like, how dare you take care of me and make sure that I don't die, right? Like, I know that I put my parents through hell, and mom, thank you. Dad, thank you for taking care of me. My dad passed away in February of 2021. But I mean, he was always checking on me and always making sure my blood sugars were good. Like he knew so much about me as a person that he knew when I was lying about my blood sugars. He knew about just, like he knew me. And so, I couldn't have done this without my parents. I couldn't have gotten even, I probably would have been dead, right? Like I should have been dead many times. My wife, I've known my wife since I was in 8th grade and she was in 9th grade. We lived in the same apartment complex. We didn't date from that point. Like we're not high school sweethearts or anything like that. But like she'll tell people all the time, like I have multiple lives and I should have been dead many times. There are so many stories that like I don't have time to tell you, but like I should have died. And some of the stories I told you today, like my blood sugar being 19, like I could have just fallen and tripped and who knows, I don't even know where the field trip was at when that happened, but like who knows what could have happened, right? Like all that to be said is like I went through a lot growing up, and I'm sure that there are going to be other stories that I remember throughout my life, and like if there is, and if they matter to the story of what I tell you in another video, I'll add them in there because I think that they're important. I think the history of these things are important enough to continue to talk about. But I want my next video will be about getting the pump and um and probably just a quick rundown of my life from like the first pump I got to now, and then we'll start talking about things going forward. If there's anything like questions or whatever that you might have for me, ask them in the comments and then I'll touch on them in a video and I'll talk to you about them in the comment section. But I want to engage with you guys. I want this to be a community of people that can just talk about diabetes. If you haven't watched the Juice Box podcast, go out there and watch that listen to that podcast. It is the most amazing thing you listen to when it comes to type 1 diabetes. The guy Scott who runs it he started it because of his daughter, and it is what completely changed my life. And it has changed the lives of many people. Join the Juice Box podcast Facebook group and you will see the amount of just community that's built there as well. There are so many people in that group that are like just super geniuses with diabetes. Like you'll see people ask questions and within minutes, like somebody's got like 6 answers for them, like about like what might be the case and what they would do if in their situation to at least give you like a good starting point of how to handle it. It's a great group of people and I definitely can't recommend it enough. So go out there, check out the podcast, check out that Facebook group. Keep coming back and watching my videos, and let's just keep the news about diabetes growing. That diabetes is not a death sentence. It's not what it used to be. Technology is going crazy, and it's only going to keep getting better. So I'm excited to go down this journey with you guys, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks.